Hey, greedy 3Ders, welcome to the madness of another morning in the man cave. Any of you that think that 3D printing is a quick 2-minute process, I just thought I'd put this on there at the start of the video just to show you just how much work goes into making the 3D print itself. And that doesn't include, of course, all the prep work on the computers and downloading the files, and it's just such a long-winded job, but well rewarding. And here is me working like a maniac trying to get Lara Croft all ready for the painting process. Now this Lara Croft file, you can buy it from the item description. I'll tell you where to get it from. It's a friend of mine that has had it commissioned, and I'm doing a bit of a test print for it for him. So you get first dibs at it, which is always good. And here you can see me just doing some filling, some sanding, some messing about, some cleaning, all sorts of things until we're ready for the painting process. So I'm going to start with some matte black air like I always do, and I'm going to prime old Lara here all the way over. Now we've done a little bit of filling. If you check my previous video, you can see that I filled her arms, and I've also done a little bit of filling of using some wood filler to join her torso to her legs. Get all the stuff primed, including the bow. I'm going to prime also the two boots. And the base I've printed on a PLA printer, and I'll come back to that a little later on. For the skin tones, I'm doing my usual, starting off with Nomad Flesh, and I'm going to give her a complete coating of this colour all across. There may just be a hint of dark left in the background under her eyes and nose, but on the whole, the majority of Lara is going to be covered with this base layer of the Army Painter Triad set of skin colours, and the colours that I always use to do my base layers. Now, of course, these three colours that you'll see me putting on are not the end. I'm going to do some washes as well, but regarding a skin colour, that's the first base layer on. Moving up the triad to the Barbarian Flesh, and I'm just going to do again what I always do here, just starting off at the top and trying to make sure that I catch the lighter areas as the light would hit. So that's the top of her face, the top of her arms and her shoulders, and coming down to try to give a 3-colour scheme, if you will, of the skin colours, to make sure it's not just one colour, because if you look at your skin, it's not just one colour. And the lighter colour, the Wildling Flesh, just purely from the top and just on the areas that really would catch the majority of a light source that I've put coming down from above here, top of her shoulders, face and the outside of her arm. And there she goes. That's the skin tones all done and dusted, all the basic ones. We're going to do washes, we're going to do blemishes, we're going to put some dirt on there. Oh, lots of work to do. Now, don't ruin your work here. Get a base layer protected with some Rust-Oleum clear. This stuff really is imperative, because as soon as you start handling this, if you don't coat it, it'll start coming off on your hands and you'll start making a mess of your paintwork, and we don't want that. I'm using some rawhide brown on the boots, and I'm going to give them a general layer of it across the black, but I want some of the black to come through to add to some of the effects that you'll see on the boots there. Going up a layer to leather brown as well, and I'm just going to give them a light coating, and you will see straight away that that has added a dark and a light brown look into the boots. We're going to do a little bit of dry brushing on certain edges of the boots a little bit later on with a really light brown, but for now that's the base coat of the boot done and dusted, and onto the bow, and that's having a leather brown coat as well. And again, more work in the brush stage on the bow. Now, as you can see, I've used some masking tape, and I'll put a link in the description to the masking tape that I used to protect all that wonderful skin. I have allowed it to dry for 24 hours before I did this stage. And for her top, I'm going to use Exile Green. All these are from the Army Painter Air Mega Set, and this green is a brilliant camo-y kind of green, which I'll use for Lara's top here. Making sure I get a really good coat all over. You can see why I protected that skin now, can't you? And once that's done, as ever, a protective coat of Rust-Oleum, the clear lacquer, to protect that as well as everything else. Now, I've put some more masking tape and just a plastic bag across the top, and I'm going to use some oak brown to base layer her trousers. And again, another one of the mega set here, the Air Paints brilliant colour. Just going to give it a base layer of this to give it that kind of dirty brown leathery trouser look, and I'm going to use some bulwark brown, a really light coat of bulwark brown only in certain areas. So I'm using the airbrush to just give a real light coat of this, just pulling it back ever so slightly to get just a lick of paint in certain areas, and that's around the bottom and the areas of her clothes that would normally crease and crinkle. And you can just see, don't overdo it, just gentle in certain areas, and we're getting that effect of aging her trousers up. Now I'm going to wash these, I'm probably going to do a little bit of dry brushing as well, but on the whole you'll see it's just given them that lighter colour, and that's the effect I was after. And now to protect that, yes, you've guessed it, some Rust-Oleum clear right the way across. And I'm going to leave this well and truly to dry before I get on to the next stage, which is the brushwork. Now, one of the things that gets overlooked is shading, and I'm going to use some Drakenhof Nightshade to shade the clothing. The clothes look flat at the moment, but this shading will make a massive difference to them, and I would absolutely recommend you get some of this Citadel paint and you spray it on. All I'm going to be doing is concentrating on the folds of her sort of top and on her trousers, and I don't want it to go everywhere. I definitely just want it to go on the inner parts of the folds and under where any of her clothing sticks out, like where her boobs are and around by the strapping. I'm just getting this on liberally, but you can see straight away the difference that it's making. It's giving it a little bit of depth, it's giving it a little bit of shade and a little bit of shadow. Like I say, do not underestimate the importance of shading when you're making your models. Same again for the trousers, just concentrating on the inner parts, and I'm going to go on the layers of the folds. Now if you do it too much and you're not happy with it, just take your original colour and go over the top of it really lightly, and that will break down the actual shading. But as I say, shading is an integral part of any model. Now don't forget, make sure you subscribe and make sure you think about joining the Patreon. And if you do join the Patreon, I will send you this STL file of Lara Croft absolutely free. Another reason to join the Patreon there. Okay, and there we go. There's the shading on, and I think you will agree with me. It just adds that nth degree depth to the layer of clothing and makes it look more realistic. These artist brush set here has been gifted to me, and I said that I would use them and give my honest opinion. Now, so far of using them, I'm really happy with them actually. I think the quality is really good. There's a really fine point, and it did maintain that fine point right throughout the actual painting. So if you want to get hold of these, then it'll be in the item description where you can get them from. So I'm doing a wash on her face here, and I'm just using some really light red, and I'm going to just splodge it on there, and I'm going to wipe it off. It's just watered down red, and the process here of washes is a light colour on and off and on and off, and put layer after layer on, and eventually the layer will start to build up and add a really delicate layer of pinky red to the skin. I'm going to go over the whole of her face and arms and body with it, and once I'm happy I've got that delicate colour of pink on there, I'm going to paint the eyes black. I always do eyes this way, especially on female characters, as it allows the eyeliner above and below the eye to be really extenuated and stick out, and saves you having to paint it on, which is really fiddly. So make sure you get the top of the eye and the bottom of the eye. And once I've done that, I'm going to move on to some barbarian flesh mixed with a little bit of red, and I'm just going to just go over her lips while the black eyes are drying, getting all avenues of the lips covered in this one colour. But that's not going to be the end colour of the lips, because what I've done now is I've just taken more of a reddy colour, and I'm just going to go over the outer edge just to add that border, and then I'm going to take a lighter colour of pink, and I'm going to put some shadow, some light effects rather, on the bottom lip, and that's pretty much the lips done. Now for the eyes, we've put that black on, and now I'm going to move to a grey white, and I'm going to paint the whites of the eyes in, leaving that outer layer of black above, below and all around the eye. Once I've done that, a little layer of red at the bottom, and then I'm painting her irises in, as you can see there. And then I'm going to move to some leather brown and just paint on the inner parts of her eyes. Their eyes are nice and brown. You'll also notice on the edges of the top of her eyes, I've just put a little bit of lines there for eyelashes, which are just sticking out ever so slightly. I've not gone over the top on that. The brown has gone on, and then I've moved to a lighter brown just to add a colour effect to the bottom of the eyes, like a light reflection just on the bottom of the brown irises. And once that's done, loaded my brush with black and one dollop right to where her pupil's going to be. Same again on the other side. And that's pretty much the eyes done. I put a bit of red in the corners, and that's the eyes done once the varnish goes on a little bit later. Now I've done a hair here with some leather brown as a base colour, and I've done her eyebrows also with a really thin brush just to make them look like they are layered on. I'm going to take some hardened leather from the Army Painter Speed Paint, and I'm going to paint this on the hair to give it a contrast colour to the usual brown. As I always do with hair, Speed Paints make a wonderful addition to painting hair, and it really does make the low lights look low and the highlights look high. Can't tell you how happy I am with the hair, and I would get some of this Speed Paint if I were you, and of course you can get it from the description. Now I'm going to use a hard bristle brush and a little bit of brown to speckle some speckles and freckles across Lara's face to give her a little bit of a used, aged character look. And taking some gloss varnish, some Vallejo varnish onto those eyes now. As you can see there, the edges are just, I don't think I showed it on the last one, the pink edges on the inner and the outer edges, the gloss varnish going on, and I'm also going to do some varnish across the lips. And her face is done with all the speckles on. It looks probably over the top close up, but once you pull back a little bit, they look absolutely fine. Now the Exile Green was the main colour for her top, and I'm going to use that with a brush just to tidy up the edges where there's been a little bit of overspill from the skin, and I just want everything to look crisp, so I've gone over all the edges with that. And onto again some leather brown for the straps of her bag there and her arrow pouch. So I'm just going to go over everything with that. Of course that's not going to be the last colour, I'm going to do a bit more work on it, but I want to get that base layer of leather brown down. Now to add a little bit of life and usage to all the leather work, I'm going to take some skeleton bone, which I have to say is my favourite Army Painter colour ever. It's got so many uses. And I'm just going to use a small dry brush to just go over all the strap work across her. This will include the straps that go across her front, her belt, her holster, and also I'm going to do the arrow pack on her back as well. To do the arrow pack, I'm using a bigger brush just to make it look a lot more even and neater. Same again on the boots, so I'm dry brushing those again with the skeleton bone just to give them a little bit of a battered, well-worn look. And I'm doing a little bit extra across the laces to make the laces stick out, as you can see there. And that's the boots pretty much finished. I'll do a little bit of silver down the zip, but that's them pretty much done. Now taking a soft tone on top of your dry brushing, I'm going to add a wash on there, which will just give it again that aged look and make it layered, just give it a look of usage and make it look leathery. And this is how I always do leather, and I'm really happy with the end result always with this. Now the base was just PLA printed in grey. I've given some skeleton bone dry brushing followed by a little bit of white on the top, and that's the base done, and that is Lara done. Hope you've enjoyed this, and let's see what the end result looks like. There you go, Lara Croft done and dusted. Hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you learned something from the process, but most importantly, I hope you've enjoyed watching it. And if you want to buy the file, you can get it from the link in the description. But if you are a member of my Patreon, just as a thank you to patrons and anyone who wants to join the patron scheme, I will send you this file absolutely free of charge, el gratis, won't cost you a penny, as a big thank you for supporting me. If you want to support the channel in other ways, you can subscribe, you can buy items from the item description, such as printers, paints, anything you see me using on here, and a little bit will kick back to the channel and allow me to carry on doing these things for you. So leave a comment, leave a like, leave a share, tell me what you think. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of the whole process? Anything you would do differently? Don't forget, let me know, and I'll see you next time on Greedy 3D.